Hey everybody, Eric here from TOURNA-MIX, the ultimate mix competition website. Hope you're doing good. If you like mix contests, check out the link in the description below. It'll bring you to our site. We host 2 mix contests every month. We're having a good time. Hop in anytime. So today we're going to talk a bit about stock plugins versus third-party plugins and whether or not there's an advantage to having a bunch of fancy third-party stuff or whether stock plugins are quote-unquote good enough. All right, I think it's a very normal question to ask yourself, especially when you're starting out in mixing. Do I need the high-end plugins? Are they something that's worth investing in? Will they make my mixes sound better? I remember being there, about 8 years ago when I started mixing. I used Logic's stock plugins for probably about a year, and then I started buying Waves, and then I got the Slate bundle, and now I own literally every plugin ever made. It's kind of like a rite of passage to start investing and exploring third-party plugins, but is it worth it? All right, so I'm just going to cut to the chase and give you my quick answer. I think you can make a perfectly good mix with stock plugins. If you can't, okay, nothing will help you. And that's the bottom line. If you cannot make a good mix or even a great mix with stock plugins, there's very little hope that third-party plugins will bring you up to that pro level, because that's not how tools work, right? I mean, this skill of the operator is always going to be far more important than the tools used, right? I mean, do we really think that, Ronaldo wouldn't be good at soccer if he didn't have like $4,000 cleats, if such a thing even exists, right? Clearly, Ronaldo is Ronaldo. He probably does wear $4,000 cleats because he can afford to, but it's not what makes him good. One of the nice things these days is that if you do want to explore third-party plugins, you can get into the game pretty cheap. You can grab the Kush bundle or the Slate bundle or the Plugin Alliance thing, all for very cheap, and just sort of test the waters, right? And I don't see anything wrong with doing that. I mean, it's important to realize that whenever you bring on a bunch of new tools, there's sort of a learning curve associated with using them, so it can slow you down in the short run. But in the long run, I think sifting through a bunch of third-party tools and finding ones you like, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think a lot of pros use third-party tools, because why wouldn't they? But if you're someone who's at home right now, just starting mixing, and you're not doing this professionally, and you're using your DAW's plugins, just feel very confident that you're absolutely in the game. You can absolutely compete. You can do great work with stock plugins. And then when the time is right, if you feel like, going one step further, and getting those higher end tools, then I say go for it. Why not? They're not even that expensive anymore. I just bought the Black Rooster audio plugin bundle for $99. It's as good as any plugins I've ever used, and it was $99 for the entire line. So we live in good times. All right, we're going to listen to some audio here in just a second. This was stock plugin month at TOURNA-MIX. Not officially, you weren't required to use stock plugins. I just thought it'd be fun to do both of my mixes using Logic's plugins just to see what happened. And what I ended up doing, I wasn't counting on doing this, but I ended up remixing both songs using all my fancy plugins just to see what would happen. And the results are pretty interesting. So I have a mix here of Gypsy White Moon. I'm calling it Mix A, so you don't know which one it is. And loaded into reference, I have Gypsy White Moon Mix B, which you can see here. So I'm not going to tell you which one's which. We're going to have a quick listen here. And one of them was done entirely in Logic, and one of them was done using Universal Audio and Kush and Black Rooster and Kazrog and a bunch of nice, third-party stuff. Let's have a listen, see what you think.
You were born under a rambling star. You left an ocean of tears from all those broken hearts. Your dark eyes of mystery are still shining in my dreams. Just a wisp of what we were is out there calling for me. Gypsy white moon, where are you shining tonight? It's too soon to hide the stars in your eyes. I'll hold on to your last kiss goodnight. Where are you, Gypsy white
All right, so the big reveal, the Mix A was my third-party plugin mix, and Mix B, the one down here, was the stock plugin mix. All right, now I don't care who you are or where you're from. Those mixes sound really similar. You can tell the same person mixed them. And despite the fact that in the third-party mix, I used literally the best plugins money can buy compared to plugins that were free in my DAW, right? It's pretty interesting how similar they ended up. Like you can see that the person mixing is really the thing that gives you your sound, right? Whether you like these mixes or not, it's not about whether they're good or bad. It's just I ended up in an extremely similar place. Now, this isn't like a super controlled study. Obviously, I did these mixes on different days, so we can't really form any, huge conclusions here. But I do find it interesting how similar they ended up. I mean, holy cow, like you can barely tell them apart in certain sections. Now, I do prefer my third-party mix, which is, maybe me just trying to justify the thousands of dollars I've spent on plugins. I think it sounds a hair better. But not in a meaningful way. Like, if I was doing the official mix of this song, I think either one of those mixes would have represented where I'm at as a mixer pretty well. So if you're at home using stock plugins and you're concerned that they're like a big problem, I don't know. Depending on what you thought of this, I think it's a pretty compelling argument that, you end up in a pretty similar place. All right, let's take a look at another example. We're going to move on to the main contest song at TOURNA-MIX this month. This is Fight the Good Feeling. And again, I have Mix A and Mix B loaded in. Don't necessarily assume they're in the same order. I might have switched them. I might have not. We're going to do another blind listening test here between my third party and stock plugin mix. Here we go.
Seem to get enough. Am I chasing down a fantasy? It seems it's always steps ahead of me. I sunk down deep. I thought that I could keep my head above the water, still feel the bottom. But my lungs went down, singing what if I should come, still feeling. Gotta fight the good feeling.
All right, so in that example, I'm hearing more of a difference. I'm going to reveal them again. I decided to just keep the same order. Mix A was my third-party mix, and Mix B was my stock plugin mix. Now, again, I think it's super clear that the same person mixed that song. They sound very similar in a lot of ways. This time, though, I hear a pretty clear advantage with my third-party mix. It feels warmer. It feels just kind of a little bit bigger and certainly less boxy. Let's go back to the chorus for a second here. In the chorus, you can really hear a boxiness in my stock plugin mix. Let's hear it again, starting with the third party.
My head above the water, still feel the bottom. But my lungs went down, singing what if I should come, still feeling. Gotta fight the good.
To my ear, the third-party mix just opens up a lot. It just sounds a lot less cluttered in the mid-range. Just kind of feels better. But again, this is far from a scientific study. In fact, I was curious when I did this comparison, why did my stock plugin mix sound kind of boxy and a little bit more brittle? Was it the plugins or was it something that I did? I actually went back into the session for my stock plugin mix and I found that I'd added some distortion plugins that I'd never used because I wasn't allowed to use Decapitator or any of my other favorite distortion plugins. So I used some pedals within Logic, some like guitar pedal stuff that I threw on the vocals, and it really made them sound kind of boxy. So I kind of ended up figuring out that it really wasn't the plugins per se. It was just the fact that I made better mix choices in one of them. So again, far from a controlled experiment, but overall very, very similar sounding mixes. If we go back to the instrumental section, they sound really similar. See, again, you can tell, I made similar choices, right? It's like almost like you could give me any plugins, doesn't matter what, and I'd always end up in that same kind of rut, or groove. Like, I wouldn't be doing anything radically different regardless of which plugins I'm using. But I do kind of prefer the sound of the third party. So not a compelling argument that you need to run out and go buy a bunch of fancy plugins. But I think it's interesting that in both scenarios, at least for my taste, I did outmix myself just a bit using my fancy plugins. So what's the conclusion? Well, I'll let you make your own. Okay. Depending on what you thought. I mean, some of you might have preferred my stock plugin mix in both cases. Who knows, right? Either way, I think it's pretty clear that you're not going to make any massive strides, regardless of what tools you're using. No one goes out and buys a plugin package and gets better at mixing. It's not the way it works. But I think if you're serious about mixing, certainly if you're doing it professionally, or even if you're just a really like enthusiastic hobbyist, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't go out and try a few third-party plugin bundles. Again, they're super cheap. If you don't like subscription models, there's still ways to get plugins that aren't going to cost you a fortune. Again, I'm not affiliated in any way, but the Black Rooster plugins, I can't recommend them enough. I'm really enjoying them. I've got like 80% of the UAD stuff, and I'm using the Black Rooster now almost exclusively. So, and that was $100 for like 20 plugins or something. It's amazing. So there you have it. Quick little study today on third versus, stock plugins. And, I think my conclusions are fairly clear. Be very, very proud and very, very confident with whatever tools you're using. That's the bottom line. You're not going to see a massive difference either way. But when the time's right, go buy some nice plugins or get on a nice subscription. Kush, Slate, Plugin Alliance, they're all fantastic. And bottom line, have fun and keep mixing.